In his first 100 days, President Trump acted decisively on illegal immigration. But while that captured attention, the more important issue, how America handles legal immigration, has remained largely untouched. For a country that's the top destination for migrants globally, the United States does a surprisingly bad job selecting who gets in. Each year, roughly 1 million people are granted green cards. Yet very few are admitted on the basis of merit, skill, or economic contribution. More than half are allowed in simply because they have a relative who came here before them. Not because they're highly qualified, not because they bring something the country needs, just because they're related. It's a curious way to run a modern immigration system. We wouldn't pick airline pilots, doctors, or engineers this way. Yet that's precisely how America allocates the majority of its permanent residency slots. Only about 1 in 5 green cards are awarded for employment purposes, and even then the selection is often determined by luck. The H-1B visa program, for example, issues 85,000 visas a year, allegedly for skilled specialists. In reality, it operates like a lottery. Outsourcing firms flood the system with applications to secure cheap labor, mainly for routine tech roles. As a result, the United States doesn't necessarily get the best applicants. It gets the most persistent ones, or those backed by firms that understand how to game the system. There are some exceptions. The O1 visa program, granted to individuals with extraordinary ability, and the L1 visa for intra-company transfers are much more merit-based. But together, these account for less than 5% of new permanent residents. Then there's the diversity visa program, another lottery. Every year, 50,000 people approximately are chosen pretty much at random from countries that are underrepresented in the US immigration system. Since 1995, this scheme has brought in 1.5 million people, many with limited screening and little regard for whether they're suited to a life in a Western liberal democracy. President Biden's CHNV parole initiative, which at one time admitted about 30,000 people a month from places like Haiti and Venezuela, reflects a similar lack of selectivity. It prioritizes volume over quality, sentiment over strategy. The deeper problem is philosophical. America's immigration system is based on the assumption that people from every culture are inherently the same, that values, habits, and civic norms are universal and transferable. This isn't true, and the consequences of this thinking are visible in cities like Dearborn, where integration isn't happening the way it should. The melting pot doesn't work unless the ingredients are willing to melt. Europe has learned this the hard way. Cultural compatibility matters. That doesn't mean necessarily rejecting diversity. It means recognizing that some kinds of diversity require far more work and sometimes never quite cohere the way we want them to. Immigrants can be tremendously entrepreneurial. Being an immigrant myself, I'm all in favor of immigration. In fact, over half of US unicorn companies, those worth over $1 billion, were founded by immigrants. But not just any immigrants. The founders of these firms typically came from countries like India, Israel, the United Kingdom, and parts of Europe. These are people who brought extraordinary talent, not just a distant family connection or a winning lottery number. The solution is straightforward. Replace the H-1B visa with a greatly expanded, streamlined version of the O1 visa program. Prioritize those who demonstrate exceptional talent and character. At the same time, end completely the diversity visa program. There's no reason to select new citizens by chance, and no reason to pretend that all cultures are equally compatible with the principles of American democracy. The US should not hesitate to cap entries from countries where integration will prove difficult. Nor should America shy away from revoking the status of individuals who come here and support extremist ideology or anti-American attitudes. I'm an immigrant to this country. I remember my daughter coming home from school on her first day, not knowing the Pledge of Allegiance. On her second day, she recited it as well as anyone. That's how it should be. Immigration is about joining, not just arriving. And it's time America built an immigration system that reflects that truth. One based not on sentimental slogans, but on merit, compatibility, and a shared belief in the promise of this great country.